Okay everyone, it is time for the book video of all book videos. This is gonna be every single book I read in 2022. You guys like to see every single book I read, and I feel like this year, especially because I did not do monthly reading wrap-ups very often, there was a lot of times that you guys didn't hear me talk about books because they just like didn't fit in my trope videos. I didn't do a wrap-up video for that month. So I'm gonna be talking about a lot of books in this video. I don't even know how many, I didn't count. This was definitely one of my worst reading years in terms of how many books I read, and also in terms of like the quality of the books I read. I struggled this year in finding books I really loved. I had like 10 books that like stood out a lot to me, and then all the rest were either they're okay, like they all are just genuinely like okay, and then there was a lot of books that also I just didn't like. So I'm just gonna like tell you how I felt about it. If a book stands out to me, I'll tell you, but I'm basically just gonna like show you the book, maybe tell you a little bit about it, the trope, the rating, whatever. A lot of these books I probably don't remember anything about because like I said, so many books were just not memorable to me. Let's get into all the books that I read in 2022. Also, before I start, just thought I'd mention that my last upload was my top 10 books of 2022. So if you really want to know like my top 10 favorites, the 5 stars, you can watch that video. I'll also probably like point out which ones I really loved, but if you just want to cut to the chase and get the good recommendations, you can watch that video. First book I read, I finished this on New Year's Day, I'm pretty sure, was I Temporarily Do. I remember absolutely nothing from this book besides they went on a road trip and it was Marriage of Convenience. Really short, don't remember anything. Then I read Verity, which I did a reading vlog on. Terrified me. Reminders of Him came out and I read that. Then I read another sad one, which was Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This book was actually really, really good. Trigger warnings, please look them up before you read it though. I really want to read more Kennedy Ryan books in the upcoming year. Then I read Bad Intentions by Charlie Rose. It's one of my best friend's favorite books. I really liked it. It was cute, small town romance, grumpy sunshine. Then I don't own the physical copy, but it's Dare You to Hate Me by B. Celeste. I did not love this one. It's not memorable to me. I almost DNF'd it, but I didn't. Or I may have. I don't remember. Then I read The Worst Best Man, which I did like. This was one of the ones where it was like a little bit better than the meh, but I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I remember I tried to read this book last year when I was in a slump, and then I reread it again. Still didn't stand out to me. Still didn't like fall in love with it. I liked it, but like I was in a slump, so like it didn't hit the spot, you know? Then I read Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher as soon as it came out. I was so excited. This is a book I did love this year. Now that I think about it, it could have been in my top 10, but it wasn't. It was probably really close to being in my top 10 though. Then I read Enemies. I don't have the physical copy, but I remember it was really similar to Dare You to Hate Me. Don't really remember much that happened besides it was like second chance romance and they're enemies, obviously. Then I read one of my new all-time favorite books, which was Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This is nonfiction memoir. I could not recommend it enough. I really liked that, and I was like, oh my god, I'm on like, not like a self-help journey, but like feeling inspired. And I read The Mountain Is You, and it's all about self-sabotaging and how to stop doing that. I really annotated this thing. I feel like reading this was like going to therapy. Then I read a really, really good book, but really, really sad. The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. It's about a girl who was sexually assaulted, so trigger warning before you read it, but I really loved it. Then I read my least favorite books of the year. I read the whole series because I just like thought I would feel something, and the only thing I felt was annoyance and frustration and confusion. What is this called? The Ravenhood trilogy. Flock, Exodus, and The Finish Line. Not one time while I was reading this did I know what was going on. Didn't feel connected to any of the characters because the whole time all I was worried about was trying to figure out what was going on, and I thought I was stupid because I couldn't figure it out. And then I talked to people that like the series. They're like, no, you're not supposed to know what's going on. I didn't like that. Honestly, wish I didn't read it because this took me like a whole month to read because it just put me like off. But yeah, unpopular opinion. But then I read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I really, really loved. I love everything she writes. Next, I read What We Talk About When We Talk About Love. When I saw this at the bookstore, I bought it because I remember that this was quoted in the movie Stuck in Love, which is one of my favorite movies ever. I just bought it for that reason, and then I read it because it was really short. It's like a series of short stories. I'm pretty sure I was like in a coffee shop or something, and I read like the entire thing in one sitting. Then I reread Beach Read by Emily Henry. Gotta do my yearly Beach Read reread, duh. Then I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which I really liked. I thought it was really cute. It was a little bit like young, not like immature, but like younger than my normal taste, but it was still really, really cute. Then I read 2 more books I didn't really love, and I tried to force myself to love, and I ended up DNFing. It was The Air He Breathes and The Fire Between High and Low. I finished this one. I don't remember if I finished this one or not, or if I just didn't continue the series. There's 4 books. I could not get into these books. Everyone raves about this series, so I was so excited to read it. I kind of got into the first one. The second one I just thought was cringy, and like I couldn't read it. It was supposed to be, it was like a Friends to Lovers, which I normally love, and I just couldn't get into it. So I didn't read the rest of the series. Pretty sure I DNF'd this one. I don't even remember. But then was Things We Never Got Over, which I loved. One of my faves of the year. Small Town Enemies to Lovers. So cute. Then this is 5 books in one. I have the 5-book bind up. This is the Mindfuck series. I remember so vividly me reading this. I was in Italy. I could not stop reading. Everywhere I went, we were on the beach, I was reading. We were in our Airbnb, I was reading. We were at dinner, I wanted to fucking be reading. I remember I read the 5 books in 3 days, like over one weekend. Okay, then I read The Confidence of Wildflowers and The Resurrection of Wildflowers. I remember liking these when I read them, but now they're not very memorable to me, except the plot twist, which I did not see coming, that led into the second book. But I kind of wish that these were just like one book. Like they could have both been shortened, especially the second one. So it kind of put me off because I felt like this could have just been an epilogue, but they made it into a whole book. I don't know. Then I read Second Chance Summer, which I don't have the physical copy of, but this was way less of a romance, more of like a story about this girl and her family. There was a little bit of romance in it, but it wasn't what I was expecting at all. But this is when I was trying to get into my summer romance vibes because it was like May and I was like, I need more. So that's when I started reading like back-to-back summer books, which you'll see. Because then I read Alex Approximately. It was really cute, again for younger people probably, but I really liked it nonetheless. It was a cute summer romance with like the pen pal trope and then not knowing who they are in real life. So again, on the theme of the summer books, I read Every Summer After, which I loved. This was set at a lake house, past and present perspective, second chance romance. Then I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry when that came out. Incredible. You know how I feel about Emily Henry. Then I read Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. I liked this book, but it wasn't anything crazy special to me. Like everyone was raving about it, and so I got really excited and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna love it. And I liked it. Then I read The Infinity Between Us, which I don't have a physical copy of, which was another summer romance. Did they both inherit a house? I think. So there's like Forced Proximity, Second Chance Romance. Then Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. It was like fun, easy read that I read in like one sitting. So it's academic rivals to lovers, which I feel like is a trope that's not done enough. Next, I read My Policeman. Oh, this makes me so nostalgic. I lived in Brighton where this book takes place, and I read this book sitting on the beach where this book takes place, and it was just so iconic. I have a whole reading vlog of it, and I like showed all the different parts of the setting, and now the movie's out. So then I read Normal People by Sally Rooney. I actually didn't read this copy. I annotated it for my friend Ellie, very much annotated it, and now it's one of her favorite books, which is so special to me because she read it because I annotated it for her. And then actually the book she annotated for me is also one of my favorite books of the year, so how cute is that? Then I reread Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is one of my favorite books just because it's like such an easy, like mindless read, and it's so cute that I just like always reread it when I'm like, okay, I've been reading too many heavy, like this makes me depressed. I was like, okay, I need to feel happiness. Let me read this. And then The Summer I Turned Pretty show came out. So you already know I read the trilogy. I did a whole reading vlog of it because I completely forgot. This is my second time reading it, but I like completely forgot everything that happened because I read it when I was like really young. So I read it again after the series came out, and where's season 2? Okay, then I read the Royal Hearts Academy series. There's actually 4 books, but I only own 3 of them. I really liked this series from like an outside perspective, but I feel like there's just so much wrong also in the series where I was like there was just so many things that I didn't agree with that happened, or like the characters said such mean stuff to each other that I was like just so out of pocket, but like it was also very entertaining. It kind of felt like reading something on Wattpad where you're like, ooh, like they should not have said that, like that would not fly in real life. Like there's some things where I'm just like, this is very questionable. The first one is Best Friends to Enemies to Lovers, except it's like super enemies, like he's so mean to her. Second one is Bully Romance, which you know I hate, but it was a bully romance and it was like popular guy, not popular girl. Then it was like Wicked Princess, Wicked something in between, which was about the sister. These are all about siblings and like the best friend, by the way, companion novels. Wicked Princess, didn't love that one, but then we got Redemption. It's about the same girl and the best friend, brother's best friend trope. That was that series. Then I read the Magnolia Park series. I actually read these 2 first. This one came out later in the year, and then I just read the 4th one, so there's 4 books. I don't own the physical copy, but I read all 4 of the Magnolia Parks books this year. Became one of my favorite series. I love it. This is the book that my friend annotated for me. Yeah, so I read those 4 as well. Then I read, if you watch any of my videos, you know I love the Addicted series, and there's a spin-off, the Like Us series, which I also really love, except for one of the couples. So I put off reading this book for a really long time because I didn't love the characters, and it was Infamous Like Us, and I finally read it because then Misfits Like Us came out. So I read this and then I read this. These are the 10th and 11th book in the series. I didn't like this one at all, of course, because I don't like the characters that they're written about. I was looking forward to this couple so much, and it wasn't that I was like disappointed, but it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be. I just love the family and the universe so much. Then I read A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime, which I didn't love, to be honest. Unpopular opinion. It was like eh. Then I read Bad Boys Break Hearts by Michaela Smeltzer. Honestly, don't really remember much of this book at all. Were they childhood friends? I don't even remember, but she came back to like the home. I don't remember. I actually have no idea. Then I read Falling for Temptation and Seeing Double by MJ Hendricks. It's the first 2 books in a series. The rest isn't out yet. They're good boy romances, and like this one was good boy, bad girl, and this one was nerdy boy, popular girl. So if you like that like kind of switch up of dynamic, I would recommend these. Up to the 80% mark or like 75% mark, they were like 5 stars, and then after that I was like, I'm gonna skim read. I was on my good boy trope kick, which I did a whole video about, and I read Lotus by Jennifer Hartman, and I loved this book. I also should have included this one in my favorites of the year, I think. Was it one of my, I don't know. That video of choosing my top 10 was so hard, but this was probably being like my top 12. You know, like it was just still really good. I definitely recommend that. My background looks so bare now. I've taken out all the stacks. Then I read The Bride Test by Helen Huang. Every book she writes, I know I'm gonna like it. It's nothing like extraordinary to me, but I liked it. Then I read The Roommate by Rosie Danon. Good, again, very Then this is actually my second time reading Malibu Rising this year. I read this book twice, one in the beginning of the year and then one sort of in the fall because I annotated it for my best friend, but one of my favorite books ever. I love it so much. Then I read Twisted Hate. Again, meh. Good, but not extraordinary. Icebreaker, loved. Everyone loved this book, and I was one of them. I can't wait for the rest of the series in the upcoming year. Then I read this Maya Hughes trilogy. It was The Art of Falling for You, The Sin of Kissing You, and The Hate of Loving You. It's all about one couple. I thought I was gonna like it a lot more than I did. I didn't really find myself getting connected to the characters. Then I read the Edens trilogy, so Indigo Ridge, Juniper Hill, and Garnet Flats. I think there's gonna be another book in this series, but I liked the first one, loved the second, felt indifferent about the last one. I really like the universe and the family, found family trope. Again, it was just like good. Then I read It Starts With Us. I didn't really like it. Hook, Line, and Sinker, again, good. Every time I read a Tessa Bailey book, I know I'm gonna like it again, but it's always just like, eh. Then I read Darling Venom, which actually surprised me. I had no idea what it was about going into it, but I really, really liked it. I couldn't put it down, and I read it really quickly, even though it's long. Look up trigger warnings, but I definitely recommend it. Then I read Under Lock by Mariana Zapata. I love the slow burn of her books. This is definitely not my favorite by her, but the buildup is still so good. Like the satisfaction when they're finally together. I love it. Then I read Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. This is the second book after The Worst Best Man. I thought it was good. Again, just good. Then I read, this is like so random, but The Girl's Bathroom, which is a podcast book. You guys know Sophia and Chinzia, British YouTubers slash podcast. I listened to their podcast, and then they wrote, it's like an advice podcast, kind of like girl talk. I don't know. It's very entertaining. And then they made a podcast book, and I ordered it, and it's all about like kind of like relationship stuff. It's just like all like a girl talk kind of vibe, you know? This is where it gets insane because I read like my 4 favorite books of the year, like back to back to back to back. Not my 4 favorite, but 4 of like my top 10. I read In a Jam by Kate Canterbury, which no one talks about and everyone should read. It was so good. Small town romance, second chance romance, kind of like nerdy shy guy, but like he had a glow up and then she comes back into town. It's kind of like single dad trope. Really good. I recommend it a lot. I loved it. Then I read my new favorite series, which if you watched my like Christmassy vlog, I talked about how much I loved this because I was reading it during that vlog. Finding 13 and Keeping 13. I'm like speechless thinking about it. I loved it so much. These are probably the longest books I own. They're like literally so long, and the font is actually unreally small. I don't know if you can tell, but I actually was like squinting my eyes. I've never read such small font, and the books are still this big. But this is found family trope, high schoolers. There's gonna be more books, more couples. This is just about one couple, but you get to see all the different ones forming in the friend group. So much trauma, look up trigger warnings, but so good. Okay, second to last book, besides the one I'm currently reading, was Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I didn't know what to expect when I went into it. I knew everyone loved it, but this book to me was like if Normal People was written in a more romancy way and was like fulfilling in the end. The only complaint I had about this was the ending was so rushed, but I still loved it so much. It just like made me think so much about like time passing, miscommunications, the decisions I've made, and your entire life could be different. And then the book I'm currently reading, as it's December 28th, so I know I'm gonna finish it before the year ends, and I'll probably read another book. Don't think it's gonna make it in this video. The book I'm currently reading is Boys of Brayshaw High, which is the first book in a series. I'm only in like chapter 11, but I really like it so far. I think I'm gonna continue the series into the new year. We'll see. Probably gonna finish like tomorrow. That's where where I currently stand. And those are all the books I read this year. Wow, looking at the stacks next to me, I have no idea how many books that was, but I hope you enjoyed seeing them nonetheless. I'm gonna try to be better about doing monthly reading wrap-ups in this new year, depending on how much I read. I'm not sure. It's my last semester of school, so gotta focus on that before I can focus on reading. But I traveled for 6 months this year and I still managed to read this many books, so I have a feeling we'll be okay. Those are all the books I read. I hope you enjoyed this video. I can't wait for the new year. Thank you guys for sticking with me for another year. So many more book videos to come. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you want to follow me on my other social medias, they're linked down below as always, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Bye!